so it rains almost every day. So the United Kingdom were like, yeah. We want that. So the northern section goes to the United Kingdom, and then we've got two sections over here for the French. You know, thereabouts. It's not the perfect map, but so that's how Germany's divided up. Berlin lies over here on the eastern side. It's an extremely important city. You know, one of the machines of Northern Europe. In 1882, we had electricity lighting the streets. We called it an electropolis. So a massive force, a massive industrial engine. This Berlin. If you control Berlin, you control Germany. If you control Germany, you control Europe. Karl Marx and Lenin used to say. So very important city. A lot of potential, even though 85% of it is destroyed. They also need to divide Berlin up as well. They can't give it all to Stalin. So Berlin is as well. So the eastern side of the city, Soviet Union, French section, United Kingdom, United States. So we are basically on the border there right now. So that's how Berlin is divided up. Over the next few years, there's a lot of starvation, there's famine around Europe, a lot of struggling, a lot of rationing of food. You know, Belarus, Ukraine are struggling quite a lot. Even Britain. In 1945, the end of the war, Britain was rationing meats. 3 years later, in 1948, Britain was rationing bread. Things had digressed quite a bit. So the United States decided to step in. And they decided they're going to send money across the Atlantic to Europe to get the economies going again after the war. So billions and billions and billions of US dollars are sent over to anyone who wants to accept it. 17 countries accept this money. It's called the Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan from 1948. So agricultural machinery is being sent over as well. So 17 countries. Most of it goes to Britain and France as they were compatriots in World War II. A good bit of it goes to West Germany as well. And then another 14 countries in the western side. The western side, but not on the eastern side. This is Stalin's territory, and he is not willing to cooperate with the Americans. You know? We are the new wave of communism spreading around the world. We certainly don't need the help of this US dollar coming in and influencing our people. So the Soviet Union say no to the Marshall Plan. We'll look after ourselves. If the Soviet Union say no, that means it's also a no for many other countries. It's no for Belarus, Ukraine, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, the eastern side of Germany, Czechoslovakia, and then we've got Hungary, and then we've got Bulgaria, Romania, Georgia, Moldova. All say no, and then there's a bit of a difference in Europe. The western side is beginning to pick up quite a bit quicker than the eastern side. So this Marshall Plan. Now in 1948 as well, the three powers sort of break the rules. Because they have a secret meeting in London and they sort of forget to invite the Soviets because they're planning to break away. They introduce a new currency to the western side of Germany, which is, you know, not really with the rules. The Soviets are like, what do you mean you're introducing a new currency? How could we have two currencies in one city? So he decides he's going to stop this currency from getting into West Berlin. So he puts a blockade on all entry towards West Berlin from the western side of the city. So all these train routes and the autobahns are blocked off. So no land travel from west to east. Because he wants to stop the currency coming in, I suppose. But he really wants to stop the food coming in, the medicine, and the fuel, coal. Because he wants people of West Berlin to struggle and starve. Because if that happens, it means this island on the other side of Germany will be lost. And then the French, the United Kingdom, and the United States will get into their tanks, they'll jump into the Autobahn and drive back to their side of Germany. This is Stalin's plan. It's known as the Berlin Blockade from June 1948. The Cold War is beginning to heat up in the place. So they decide we cannot give up on West Berlin. We will not give up on West Berlin. We can't bring it in by land, but we can bring it in by aeroplane. It's the beginning of the Berlin airlift. This is airplanes leaving from western side of Germany, western side of Europe, flying over East Germany and into 3 different airports. Tempelhof, Gatow and Tegel. Did anybody fly into Tegel Airport?
Yeah.
That was built in 2 months for this airlift. Kind of looks like it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's built specifically for this airlift. Tempelhof Airport also used. This is from Tempelhof, this is a photograph here. That closed in 2008. And from 2009, 1 year later, it's a public park. So now you can cycle down the runway. There's a couple of beer gardens, mini golf, sculpture gardens and things like that. That is one of the most unique things you'll see in Berlin. I highly recommend going to check out Tempelhof, even after the tour. It'd be cool. So that's 3 airports taking in quite a lot of traffic. So much traffic that there was actually a plane landing at these 3 airports every 90 seconds over the next few months. Sometimes planes come into land. Sometimes it's foggy. Sometimes planes don't see each other. Sometimes they crash into each other. You lose 2 airplanes. You lose 2 sets of cargo, and you lose 2 pilots. So they came up with an idea. Let's build towers at these 3 airports. And from the towers, we're going to build communication systems with the pilots. And we had the birth of air traffic control in 1948 in West Berlin. Necessity is the mother of all creation.
What?
It goes on for 11 months. Planes have been leaving back and forward, back and forward, back and forward. They covered 92 million miles over 11 months, which is the distance from here to the sun. So after 11 months, Stalin asks for a report. Tell me how many people are starving in West Berlin. None. So he says, damn it, it didn't work. So the Soviet side they look like right fools basically. And it's a big coup, it's a big plus really for the western side. So Stalin decides to open the borders 12th of May the following year, 1949. But at that point they decide, we just cannot run this country with different ideologies. We're going to have to create 2 new ones. So the western side get their wish and they become West Germany. So that's born on the 23rd of May. What is that, 9 days now? 23rd of May 1945. West Germany is born in the west. A few months later, 7th of October 1949, we have the birth of East Germany over here. German Democratic Republic. But we have to remember, you know, this little island, West Berlin, belonging to this country over here, West Germany. Now over the next few years, 49 onwards, people in the eastern side of the country are hearing about prosperity. They're hearing about big cities in the west that are beginning to get their engines going again. Big cities like Munich, Frankfurt, Stuttgart, Cologne, Dortmund, Dusseldorf, Hamburg, Bremen, Hanover. All these cities on the western side beginning to pick up because of this Marshall Plan, because of this injection of funds in 1948. So people are beginning to pack up their bags and they cross over to West Germany a bit. Say they go to Frankfurt. And on day 1, they go to the city centre. And on day 1, they go to an office called the West German Passport Office. And they swap their passports in. They give in the East German passport, they get a West German passport. Whoop-de-doo, now I'm a West German citizen. A lot of people were saying whoop-de-doo. A million people left over the next 3 years. Over the next 3 years. Then they couldn't leave anymore because something was built down the middle of the country. What do people build when they want to stop people getting into another country? They build a wall. So this is the building of the inner German border down the middle of the country. I mean, this had been always there. There's always been fortifications here from 1945 onwards, but 1952 is when this becomes very, very difficult to cross.
And it was the Soviets that built that.
This was East Germany with the help of the Soviet Union. Yes. Always with the help of the Soviet Union, always needing permission from the Soviet Union, yes. But this particular section of it's East Germany. So now people try to cross over and they get to this wall, and there's a sign saying, "Please turn around or run the risk of getting shot. You are entering disputed territory." If they go past that sign, they might come in face to face with a truck driving up and down with soldiers in it, carrying guns. Then there's guard towers as well. An electric fence. You know, if you jump over the fence, congratulations. Because now you might step on a tripwire that will release machine guns that will spray bullets into the field. Then if you manage to get over that tripwire and you start running, it's some parts of this are 7 kilometers wide, 3 miles, 7 kilometers at some points. And it's also laced with landmines, so you might have your legs blown off. So people from the east can't really get to the west anymore. So then some people had the idea, why don't we just go to Czechoslovakia? Just go around into Munich. So if they did continue down to Czechoslovakia and try to go through this border, they would realise that this wall had not stopped. It had continued between Czechoslovakia and West Germany. It had continued between Czechoslovakia and Austria. It had continued between Austria and Hungary. It continued for 6,500 kilometers all the way to Greece. It's what we call the Iron Curtain, dividing Europe throughout the Cold War between Western capitalism and Eastern communism. People from the East cannot get to the West unless you're from East Germany. Because if you're from East Germany, your capital city is Berlin, which has got a piece of another country in it called West Berlin. So what people do is they come up to Berlin. They go into the city centre. What's in the city centre? It's that passport office. Swap in their passports. They get their brand new passports for the West, just head to the border. And when they get there, they show their credentials and they're let into West Germany. So this is known as the East German brain drain of the 1950s. So the young bright minds are leaving. The young teachers, doctors, lawyers, nurses, engineers, architects, tour guides, the most important people are leaving through the Berlin loophole. Something had to be done. So on the 13th of August 1961, 1 minute past midnight, Operation Rose comes into effect. 40,000 East German Army, Soviet Army, policemen, they all surround West Berlin and start putting up a barbed wire fence. This barbed wire fence, over the next few days and weeks and months, would eventually become the first Berlin Wall, built not to stop people from getting out, but to stop people from getting in. In many ways, it's like a surrealistic cage. The only ones that were free were the ones on the inside. If you are on the inside and you want to go, you live in West Berlin, where we are now, and you want to go to Oktoberfest, you want to go to see the Eiffel Tower in France, you want to go to Austria, you can, because you've got that Western passport. So you just drive to the border here and you'll be stopped. So in your car, you'll be stopped here at checkpoint B, it was called checkpoint Bravo. So you would say, I'm going to Austria, or I'm going to Oktoberfest down in Munich. And they would say, okay, in that case you need to drive to this checkpoint to get into West Germany, which is called checkpoint A, checkpoint Alpha. So it's an hour and a half journey. We're going to call checkpoint Alpha and expect you there in 1 hour and 30 minutes.
Wow.
We're also going to take your odometer, make sure how many miles you have adds up. So if you arrive after 5.5 hours with an extra 120 kilometers on the odometer, they're going to say, what were you doing driving around the eastern side of Germany? We were expecting you 4.5 hours ago. So you had to arrive on time, otherwise you would get a lot of hassle. They would rip your car apart, thinking that you're trying to help somebody escape into West Germany. If you arrived early, after 45 minutes or so, you would get a speeding ticket. You're going too fast on this road. So you have to be right on time. So checkpoint A, Alpha, B, Bravo, C, Charlie. So we're going to finish our tour a little bit later on. So there are, so checkpoint Charlie is quite famous. There are, you know, these are 2 checkpoints. There was 14 altogether. Checkpoint Charlie is quite famous because it's where tourists pass through, and diplomats, politicians. So that's why it became quite famous, because it was a very scary place. Kind of terrifying. Today, not so much. But Checkpoint Charlie was for tourists, so people went home from their holidays and said, oh my god, I went through Checkpoint Charlie, oh my god, Checkpoint Charlie, oh my god, they were pointing guns at me at Checkpoint Charlie. But there's 12 other checkpoints between Eastern Germany and West Berlin. So those were for Germans. But why would they let Germans? I thought they built the wall to stop people getting in and out. What's going on there? So this is 1963, East Germany, they want to make money. So they let West Berliners cross into East Berlin for, if somebody's sick in hospital, pay a large amount of money for an emergency transit visa. And you used to swap your West marks in for East marks. Then they could cross over from 1963. Also for like Christmas, Easter, you can get these one-day passes to East Berlin. Then in 1964, they let some East Berliners go to West Berlin. But why would they do that? Surely they're just going to swap their passports in. Well, East Germany were prepared for this. They didn't mind if these people left because they were letting the old age pensioners leave. So if you leave, we don't have to pay for your pension anymore, so you can actually go. So 1964, that's why we've got 12 other checkpoints as well. So follow me this way, we're going to head towards the Vision Line again.